Andy Sachs lands a job as an assistant to Miranda Priestley, the powerful and demanding editor-in-chief of a high fashion magazine. As Andy navigates the glamorous but cutthroat world of fashion, she faces challenges that test her integrity and values. Under Miranda's relentless expectations, Andy transforms, questioning her own dreams and ambitions. She learns what it takes to succeed in the glamorous yet ruthless world where the devil wears Prada.
Hey, welcome back to Movie Friends. I'm May-chelle.
And I'm Seth.
And today we are talking about The Devil Wears Prada from 2006. Directed by David Frankel, screenplay by Aline Brosh McKenna, based off the novel by Lauren Weisberger, cinematography by Floria Ballhaus, composed by Theodore Shapiro, edited by Mark Lavolsi, costume design by Patricia Field. Starring Meryl Streep, Anne Hathaway, Stanley Tucci, Emily Blunt, Simon Baker, and Adrian Grenier. Hey, Seth.
May-chelle,
what's going on?
What's up?
We were talking off mic, friends, that it is very hot in New York today, on Long Island and upstate. And as I was saying that, I'm like already sweating, and I have no AC. And you don't. I'm assuming you don't have do you have central air?
No.
Yeah. Oh,
No.
man.
And so we turn off the AC in the room for when we're
Yes.
recording.
Yep.
Otherwise you'd hear. So, yeah. So
Yeah.
I said to May-chelle, this episode is going to be called The Devil Wears Prada and the Sethy Wears Nada because I'm too hot.
You do have a shirt on, but I guess we'll see how we are.
You know,
when
I
we
thought
get to the
about
end of the
wearing like a
episode.
nicer shirt for the episode,
No.
you know, fashion,
Fashion.
you know, and then I was like, no.
Yeah.
I've also got my mouth is like I had a teeth cleaning today,
Yeah.
which went well.
I'm so glad to hear that.
Clean bill of health for the most part. I need 2 teeth extractions.
Yeah. I have all my wisdom teeth in.
Oh, yeah? Really?
The dentist always loves me because they're like, wow, look at this. Look at these shining wisdom teeth back there.
Wow.
Yeah. They're
That's
always
very
praising.
rare.
I have a huge mouth.
Okay. Well,
Whatever. It is what it is.
That's the important thing. You need room
Yeah.
for them, and no one has room for them. So.
Yeah, I have all 4.
Wow. Next week when we record will be the day that I have them taken out, so we'll see what happens.
I love that. I love that we'll get a follow-up.
Yeah. Hey, we got some emails.
Email.
We also want to follow up and say thanks to everybody who left us reviews in our pursuit of beating Jamie Kennedy at the review game.
Yeah, how's that going? Are we fell off of that?
Yeah, I think there was some initial excitement, and then perhaps, you know.
I mean, we still want reviews. It's just
absolutely. I just want to beat Jamie Kennedy's podcast and reviews. I don't care about anything other than that, really.
Right, right.
So the first email subject line is double feature, and it says, "Hi, movie friends. First, I want to say how much I'm enjoying May-chelle month. It's been a seamless experience for me. You can clearly sense May-chelle's podcasting skill and experience. I've also been loving the unique movies she has been bringing to the podcast. While I was watching Little Women, I couldn't help but get reminded of the Virgin Suicides. I feel there are a few parallels. Kirsten Dunst is in both. Both are directed by women, and both are adaptations of books. Both movies feature a family of all girls that boys consider to be enigmatic. Both deal with adolescent angst as well. I think the 2 movies make a perfect double feature. What do you think? Your friend, Shawshank."
I've never seen the Virgin Suicides, so I have no idea. But thank you, Sean.
He's correct. There are a lot of parallels, a lot of comparisons. Bit of a different story.
Yeah, I could gather that.
But yeah, we should do that one eventually.
Did I try to pitch that at some point, or was that another one? I can't remember.
It may have been when we were doing all female directors,
right?
Yeah, it just didn't work out for some reason.
But thank you, Sean.
We got another email, subject line Harvey, and it says, "My happy is you covered Harvey. My crappy is you haven't visited me in South Dakota, home of our own cryptid, the jackalope."
Wow, this is such an exciting email. Sorry, go ahead.
Do you know
Keep
what
going.
a jackalope is?
Sure. Yeah.
For the longest time in my life, I was like, I'm pretty sure jackalopes are fake. But whenever I see one taxidermied in real life,
You're like, this could totally be real.
it's the kind of thing that's fake that you're like, why even make a fake thing like that? You know,
Oh, it's
like
so cute, though. I love it.
like it just seems like it would be a real thing,
Yeah,
which I guess is
Right.
why you make it.
that's right.
The email continues. If you wanted to change Movie Friends into an exclusively Jimmy Stewart Movies podcast, I wouldn't be mad about it. While Donnie Darko may not be influenced by Harvey, I think Lars and the Real Girl certainly is. That movie presents a similarly eccentric man working through something, but asks the question, what if the community around him acted with compassion and support as he goes through it? Worth seeing if you haven't. Keep on keeping on, Betsy.
Betsy. Well, we got to take a road trip to South Dakota to see Betsy.
I would do that.
Okay, you were hesitant. Betsy, I just want you to take note on the enthusiasm levels here.
I would do that. I know I didn't follow that up with a more enthusiastic.
Yeah,
I
that
would
sounded
do that.
worse. Why did you even try to make it better?
I'm
Because you
just thinking
can't
about-
lie.
I'm just thinking about like our summer plans. There's so much happening. There's so much going on.
Maybe Betsy would take a road trip to us this time.
Oh, and then we'll
And
reciprocate later.
Right. Specifically in September for our live show on Space Jam, September 21st, Long Island, New York.
You gotta come. I like how we keep saying Long Island as if it's
Well-
like one town and not a 100-mile wide island.
Well, it kind of narrows it down.
Yeah, just get to Long Island, and once you're there, send us a text. We'll tell you where to go.
Just go east.
This is a secret location.
That's
Not
right.
really. It's
We could just make it like a geocache. Go east. Just go east.
Ooh.
We can make a scavenger hunt.
A scavenger hunt, and the prize is us.
That's right. Let's complicate it.
Okay, yeah. Anyway, I wasn't even trying to do a commercial, but good segue.
Thank you. Thank you, boss.
Maybe Betsy flies out to Long Island. She does the show, and then we drive her back.
Wow.
So we do a road trip across
Yeah.
America with
Yep.
Betsy.
Yeah. But hey, Betsy, thanks for the idea. I mean, we could call this podcast Jimmy's Friends.
Oh, Jimmy's friend.
Isn't that so cute? Jimmy's Friends.
There's a few more times where it's possible Jimmy Stewart will show back up.
I hope so.
Hey, if you want to show back up, like Sean and Betsy, send us an email, moviefriendspodcast@gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you.
Hi, I'm Steve Yurko.
And I'm Tara Sands. Now available from Maji Media is our new podcast, 4Kids Flashback. 4Kids is the company who brought you the English dub of Pokemon in the late 90s and so many other shows like Yu-Gi-Oh!, Shaman King, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Kirby, the infamous One Piece dub, and so many more.
We'll be talking to the people who worked at 4Kids. Actors, directors, writers, editors, producers, engineers, you get the point. And hopefully get the answers to questions both you and I have about the company.
I actually worked there as a voice actor on some of the shows,
And I was a kid watching the shows and remember way more than Tara does.
and thank God for that. Steve is actually a professional storyboard artist, which gives some really unique insights into anime and animation. Subscribe today wherever you get your podcasts. That's the number 4Kids Flashback.
So we're wrapping up May-chelle.
Yes.
And
Wow.
before, I know. How did you feel this month, Seth? Can you believe we're at the end? I, in the beginning, talked about being a mature Cheez-It.
Yes.
Did you watch the commercial I sent you?
I did, yes. And I remembered it. Once you sent it, I was like, okay, yeah.
Yeah. Because like the trajectory, we started with Camp Nowhere and we went into Little Women. And then I was like, Harvey's kind of like my mature Cheez-It moment. But truly, I think the Devil Wears Prada internally is my mature Cheez-It moment. But
Wow.
before we get into that, I want to write down our ratings for each other.
Oh, yes. And I am so lost on this one.
I am too. So Seth and I started doing this where we're going to predict each other's ratings for a movie, and we'll reveal it at the end. And I have to say, I have no idea where you are on this.
I don't know where I don't know where I am on this. No, I'm just kidding.
Same. Well, no, to be honest, I have changed my review and rating so many times in the past week.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But anyway, okay, here's my pen.
Oh, yeah, I have a pencil. Let's see. Okay, I'm just doing it. I'm letting my hand hold the pencil.
Yeah, right? Take charge.
Write it. It did it. It's done.
Okay.
I'm
Locked in.
Yep. I should make a little jingle for this where we say, okay, locked in.
Can you do that? That'd be great.
Yeah, I'll try to remember.
Add it to the
I'll
list.
remember as I'm editing this, and I'll be like,
Yeah.
oh, shoot. And then I'll stop for an hour to make a jingle
Yeah.
that lasts half a second long.
Then nobody needs another jingle in this
Yeah.
show.
No, I'm trying to make it so that there's one every 10 minutes.
I would love that. I would love that. So if Seth and I, both of us, if we haven't seen a movie, we usually will record our pre-watch thoughts, or sometimes if we haven't seen a movie in a long time, we'll record our pre-watch thoughts. Obviously, I did not do that this week because I am leading. This is my pick. Seth, you did not record your pre-watch thoughts, but I would like you to tell me when you first watched this movie, how was it when you first watched it and going into watching it this time around?
I avoided this movie for years for two reasons. One is because I absolutely hate the movie poster, and I stand by it. I looked up all the different...
Can you go into that in detail?
I just hate... I can't... I don't know that I can describe it. So the poster that you had posted on Instagram of me saying I hate the movie poster, I think that might be the DVD cover or like just one of the poster variants. And it's the red high-heeled shoe with the pitchfork for the spike. But then above it, you have like these random squares with like the characters in it. It
Like a
looks
film
horrible.
strip.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, it looks horrible. It looks like something that I would make and look at and be like, that's not very good.
Yeah.
Oh no, I'm out of time.
A little deadline.
And then
Submit.
just the poster with the shoe and the pitchfork. I feel like Devil is in the title. Prada is in the title. Okay, so like the title tells you what this is about. I don't
Right, but
need to be like
what
have this image shoved down my face that has nothing to do with the movie.
You don't think that red high heel represents fashion, and it's kind of fun to show?
No.
No.
No, I don't like it. I don't like it. I've just always hated that poster. So I avoided it. And then the other reason was because there was like a hardcore band called
Yes.
The Devil Wears Prada. And I
Yeah.
thought that, I was like, how are you going to rip off a name that just came out? Like, what are you doing here?
Even though it was a book.
Even though it was a book. Yeah. But like for the band, like you're
Right.
picking a band name and you're just like, oh, let's pick this title of this thing that's really popular and current. That's
Yeah.
so weird to me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Be like if I started a band tomorrow and called it Garfield the Movie. Right? It's the same thing.
Yeah.
So I avoided this. I finally sat down to watch it.
When? When did you finally sit down to watch this? Do you remember?
I can tell you, actually, thanks to Letterboxd.
You logged it?
I did. October 18th, 2022.
Oh my gosh. So
Yes.
like not that long ago.
Not that long ago.
Whoa.
And
Was this by yourself and you were like, I just need to check off and watch
Yep.
a movie I haven't
Yep.
seen?
this was the
Okay.
year that I did 1,000 movies. And so I was filling in a lot of blank spots, things
Yeah.
that I had missed over 100 years.
Yeah.
And this was like a bigger type Hollywood modern film that I hadn't seen. And so I was like, let's do it. How bad can it be? I love Anne Hathaway. I love everyone involved. So I decided to get over myself and watch it. And we've already locked in our ratings for each other. So I can share with you, I had rated this 3 stars originally, and I said, it's a well-made movie. I just have a lot of problems with it. 2 problems in particular. One, is this is the second time in less than 5 years that Hollywood is trying to tell us that Anne Hathaway is not incredibly beautiful. The first being The Princess Diaries.
Right.
Which everybody talks about, the makeover in The Breakfast Club.
Yeah.
Right, and how it's like worse. And that's how I felt about The Princess Diaries. Like the big poofy hair, great. That's great. When I was a kid, I was like, leave the poofy hair. We like it. We love it. We want to see it. Leave the glasses. What's wrong? There's nothing wrong with her.
Right.
Oh, she's got a long last name. What a loser. Come on. You know what I mean?
Yes, I do know what you mean.
And then my other big problem with it, which I know that we will talk about, is the boyfriend.
Nate, Adrian Grenier.
Nate, yes.
Yes.
And primarily, my problem with him comes from him working in a restaurant.
Okay. So in this time around, did your thoughts and feelings change?
Almost across the board.
It's wild, right?
It's in less than 2 years. It's almost like I watched a different movie.
Yeah. Okay. I don't want to make this about me, but I do want to share my experience with this movie.
Please do.
So, okay. I saw this in theaters in 2006 with my sister and 3 of our guy friends.
Nice.
And I left this theater, and we were all like, this was so great. And I was like, this is instantly becoming one of my favorites. I got the DVD. I would watch it. Then Aunt and I started dating, introduced it to him. This was probably like 12 years ago we watched it. He was like, this is great. I like this movie. The patrons chose this movie. I gave them a list of my favorites, right?
Yep.
Our patrons.
Good movies.
Yes, good ones.
Yep.
It was a tie, but ultimately this one won. So I was like, okay, great. This is like I said, I thought this is like comparable to like game night.
Sure.
It's like a great cast. It's easy to watch.
Yeah.
I love this movie. This is going to be so easy. I go to watch it. I haven't seen it in probably, like I said, 10, 12 years. And I was like, why did I do this? Why did I pick this? I don't like this movie. I don't like how I'm feeling watching this. And it brought back all this like PTSD of being a personal assistant. I didn't work for a Miranda Priestley character.
Sure.
And I didn't work for a fashion empire like Runway. But I did work as a personal assistant to a couple of people. And this just, again, not Miranda Priestley level, but it just brought up a lot of stuff I did not want to bring up again.
Got it.
And I didn't realize that this would do this to me. In fact, I had to stop halfway and I had to go talk to Anne about it. And I was like, I can't believe this movie is doing this to me because I did not want to go back to the way I felt. And then it came to the conclusion of like, it's not the movie's fault. This is just, it just like opened up how I felt at one point in my life.
Right.
Even like, and we'll get into it, but when she brings her friends the swag, yeah, that was me. I would do that. And I felt so weird about it. I also remember feeling like wanting to grow and being your own villain. Also feeling like your friends don't understand what you do. I still feel that way, to be honest with you.
Right.
Anyway, after like finishing it and then writing about it, and like I literally wrote the movie out.
Wow.
Which I never do.
Right.
And then rewatching it, I was like, oh, I totally get this movie and I like it again.
Wow. And now you do not rewatch movies for the show often.
Never. I've never rewatched a movie for this show, Seth.
And this one.
Yeah.
This movie feels like a big idea movie to me.
Yeah.
I don't think of this as like a silly little rom-com dramedy. You know what I mean? I feel like this tackles a lot of bigger ideas and perhaps not incredibly well. Like I'm not trying to say like, oh, this is even necessarily like an important film. For having lived through this time period, I don't know. I just felt like you and I could talk about this movie for probably like 2 or 3 hours.
Absolutely.
And then also you with your personal experience.
Yeah. I want to start from the beginning.
Sure.
Okay. The opening is great. I love the opening montage and we see the girls of New York getting ready versus Andy getting ready for her interview. We have the contrast of what they're wearing, what they're eating. Andy is just, picking out an outfit from her closet that seems very basic. She's eating carbs. The music's great, right? Suddenly I See, it's like iconic. Katie Tunstall. We love it. We love it, right? It's like setting us up.
That song, Suddenly I See, is one of those songs that it's like, it feels like it was written for a commercial. It was so overplayed. And I think probably maybe is still overplayed. It's like, it's a song I think that's written for like 44-year-old people. You know what I mean? Like, it's not very edgy but I like that song. I think I like the song, and I think that the song really fits with the arc of the movie. Like, if you look at the lyrics and the realization that Andy comes to by the end.
Right.
Yeah. But I took note. The first minute of runtime are all the production companies and title cards. And so if you start from 1 minute, it's like less than 25 seconds. And we're like just zoomed in on a woman's chest getting dressed. And I was like, whoa. And I thought, I didn't realize that this was different people. I thought that it was all.
Oh, you're following the same person? Or you're Andy?
Yeah, I thought it was all Andy. And so I was like, wow, we're really just going for it on Anne Hathaway here. And then, no, it wasn't her.
No. It's like showing the contrast. And so Anne Hathaway's character, Andy Sachs, just graduated from Northwestern, moves to NYC because she wants to become a journalist. Mm-hmm. And so she gets an interview at Runway Magazine to be Emily's assistant. So the assistant to Miranda Priestley, who is the editor-in-chief of Runway Magazine. Andy enters this space, and I texted this to you last night because it took this watch for me to question how she has no idea what Runway is, and she has no idea who Miranda Priestley is. You were going on an interview, and I don't care if a headhunter set you up.
Yeah.
If they give you the location of where you're going, wouldn't you get some information of where this is, who this is?
I have a really big problem with this because we get it. You don't have to send us an email. And he doesn't know anything about fashion. Okay. But I'm going to tell you, as someone who knows negative stuff about fashion, I know what Vogue magazine is. And I knew who Anna Wintour is. Mm-hmm. That's just absurd. Especially if she's in the realm of publishing. She knows who this Christian writer is. She knows him right off the bat. She knows his work, and she loves his work.
Right.
Well, he's written for them, so
I know
you don't have any kind of vague idea. I reject this. I'm just saying, it's a weird plot point.
It's weird. But yet at the same time, it shows how naive she is. It shows that hopeful college grad. I worked on my college newspaper.
Right.
I know I'm good. I have esteemed pieces that I've done.
Yeah.
Kind of walking around like your shit don't stink. You're in your early 20s.
Yeah.
Right? And so who cares? Who cares what I look like? I know my pieces are good. And so after she meets with Miranda and Miranda abruptly dismisses her, Andy does stick up for herself, and she states how she's smart and eager to learn. And Miranda dismisses her again, and then ultimately hires the smart but fat girl because she's different than what she's used to hiring.
Yep.
So when we first meet Miranda enters the building, and everybody's scattering. And I feel like this is setting the scene for here she got a Cruella de Vil, right? Yes. So what are your thoughts when we first meet Miranda?
Well, I think it's a great opening scene. I mentioned last week, this is our first time talking about Meryl Streep, one of the most awarded and I would say respected actresses of the last 40 to 50 years. I think she's great. I love Miranda Priestley. I think she's a great character. I think she's horrible. Spoiler alert, I don't think any of these people are good. And I don't think that that's the point of the movie. But that's the point that I take away from it. So, yeah, I'm not like, oh, Miranda's great. No, Miranda sucks. And everything at Runway is kind of catered to her eccentricities, to her insecurities, to her anger. It's not good. We've all worked at a place like that before, Mm-hmm. But I think Meryl Streep is awesome as Miranda, and I love her hair.
Oh my gosh, the wig is so good.
Yeah.
It's such a good wig.
Yeah. It looks great.
And this is the only role that Meryl went method for.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
And she regrets it because she couldn't have fun with everybody else, and she was kind of miserable.
Got it.
She was I'm never doing this again. And
Well,
when she first worked with Anne Hathaway in one of their first scenes or before they started filming, she said to her I think you're great for this role and I'm really excited to work for you, but this is the last time I'm going to speak to you like this.
Wow. Well, Meryl's career is an interesting one, and I can't speak with full authority because I haven't seen some of her bigger performances.
Yeah.
I haven't seen Sophie's Choice. I'm not going to go through all the ones I haven't seen, but genuinely, of the films of hers that I've seen, they're not all great movies, but I think that she's good to great in all of them.
Yeah.
And this one, it sounds silly saying oh, this is one of her best, because it's very cartoony, It's very much like a character. She's not a person, she's a character, I feel like.
Yeah, she's not a caricature of Anna Wintour.
No.
But she's playing a character.
Yeah. I actually watched a documentary in preparation to talk about this. It's called The September Issue, and it's a documentary about the 2007, I believe, Vogue September issue. And it follows them through planning stages, doing the shoots, and it gives a lot of access to Anna Wintour, and I was just looking for the parallels, and that doc starts the same way that this one does, with her literally walking into the building, seeing everyone preparing. But in reading about her, people say that she's very difficult to work with. In the film, it's just not. And of course, this is when the cameras are on, so it's really hard to say. But she's just very decisive.
Well, that's right. That's
she
what
just
I've
comes
heard.
in and says, no, and redo this, and then leaves the room, and everyone's like, how could she do this?
Right.
And it's well, that's her job. That's literally what she does. So that's, and I was glad that I watched that because I wanted to kind of see how the Vogue process compares to this one. Mm-hmm. And yeah, it's a little different. My main takeaway from it was all of the people who work for the real Vogue who are on camera. They know, hey, the documentary crew is going to be here today. For the most part, they all looked and dressed like normal people.
Yeah.
Anna's wearing dresses each day, and she's got her signature bob, which I'm a big fan of, actually. I was like, oh, this is pretty.
I love it. Does she have her sunglasses on the whole time? That's her signature, too.
Back then, she wasn't wearing them as much.
Oh, okay.
But they all just look like normal people. They're not wearing crazy makeup and crazy clothes. And so Devil Wears Prada definitely played up that whole, oh, you're a size 6, you're a giant human being of it all.
Yeah. I mean, I think the costume design is great in it. We have Patricia Field, who did Sex and the City. And I think every character embodies an element of style in themselves.
Yeah. And I mean, to bring it back to your original question that I'm answering in over 10 minutes, Meryl Streep looks great. All of her outfits are great. I feel like some of Andy's outfits have aged really, really poorly.
The newscap hats.
But I feel like Miranda throughout this whole movie, I'm just like, wow, you're so well put together. Yes, you're very cruel, but I respect it.
She's chic. She's super chic.
Yeah. I don't respect the things that she says, but
yeah. Before I continue with Andy, I just want to talk about Emily.
Of course.
Played by Emily Blunt, which this was her breakout role. Mm-hmm. when I rewatched this the second time, this time around, I was like, oh, Emily is so funny.
Mm-hmm.
She's like the funniest one out of this movie. That's like a comedy drama, right? Dramedy. Emily cracked me up. And I love her so well. I mean, I love her so much in this.
She's very funny, and she's almost doing like a one-man show within the movie.
Yes.
And I almost feel like she's in a slightly different film. Like, I feel like she's in a movie that's more comedic, you know? Not that it's bad. It's not bad, but in contrast to what Meryl Streep and Anne Hathaway are doing, it's just more silly. Like, it's just sillier. Like, I don't think anything that Streep and Hathaway are doing is, like, silly.
No.
And Emily Blunt is really... she's pushing, like, the believability to the point where, you know, she's like... she gets into that, like, car accident, and then she's, like, walking around on crutches and stuff. And I'm like, oh, this is something else. She reprised this persona in the Jason Segel Muppet movie where she plays Miss Piggy's receptionist because she's like the fashion editor in Paris. And remembering that and then rewatching that scene, I was like, it just kind of cemented that idea in my head because I was like, oh, yeah, you're literally doing this character with Muppets. It's the same character. And it works. You know what I mean? Like, you're doing a Muppet character in Devil Wears Prada. But she's awesome. And I almost wish that we had more of her and Andy interacting. I know we've got a somewhat, it's not like a huge cast, but we need to spend time with Christian and Miranda and Nigel.
Mm-hmm.
So I get it, but I would have liked to have seen their relationship play out more because of my problem with... I now have one problem with this movie, which is the very end, but we can talk about that later.
So after Miranda hires her and she's working under Miranda and she's working under Emily, Andy is consistently challenged and feel like she's failing, but she is coming through with the tasks.
Mm-hmm.
This is one part where I'm like, is Andy actually doing a bad job, even though she's showing up to work and like to me, she is trying, but I guess it's her attitude around it. And specifically when she's out with her dad comes to visit her and her dad's concerned, gives her money for rent. And she gets a call from Miranda. Miranda's stuck in Miami and she can't get out. Her twins' recital is the next morning. She needs to get home. And so Andy is like calling everyone and anyone to get a jet to get her home. And there's a storm. She literally cannot fly out.
Right.
And so this makes her feel like a failure. But I'm like, what?
Yeah.
How this to me, I kept going back and forth of like, Andy, you need to buckle up, which we'll get to her and Nigel talking about that, like, you know, wake up 6. But like this to me, I'm like, how can no one could have gotten you home, Miranda.
Right. I've worked for bosses where everyone's trying and there's an impossibility and they still stomp their foot and they're upset and it, you know, the blame is not on them or the impossibility of the situation. It's just that, well, we couldn't make it happen.
Right. And we're going to take it out on you.
Yeah.
Because while I know deep down there's nothing you could have done, but you're the little guy, I can blame you.
Right.
I mean, that's how I took it.
Yeah, absolutely.
When Andy comes to work, I'm going backwards, but we have to talk about the cerulean blue speech.
I love that speech.
And she comes in wearing her sweater and she's, you know, Miranda's talking with Nigel about this collection and putting outfits together. And one of the assistants holds up 2 belts and Andy giggles.
Yeah.
And, you know, Miranda's like, excuse me?
Mm-hmm.
And goes on about like, you are laughing at this, but yet you have no idea that you are actually a part of this. And the sweater you're wearing is cerulean blue. It's great. I mean, this is, I feel like Meryl Streep in action here, delivering this.
Mm-hmm. It's a good point. And this is one of the times that I side with Miranda
Yes, same.
When you have kind of given your life to a profession and you have a young kid come in who's like, well, what difference does it make why we do this or that? On the one hand, yes, you should be approachable and humble, and you should be able to explain why it's important without crushing someone. At the same time, you should also be able to come in as a young person who knows nothing about what you're talking about and not laugh at how people do things.
Right.
Yeah. And so it's like, oh, they're the same thing. It's like, okay, sure.
Right. And like, this is, again, I also was siding with Miranda on this. And then with Andy, is she at this point, like, you know how Miranda operates, yet we're still so naive and we're just brushing it off like we don't care. Like, you're kind of being a dick.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And, you know, Nigel does hand it to her later on and say, like, hey, legendary artists of the century have walked the halls that you are. And one, you don't know it. But two, which is worse, you don't care. And I get it. I understand stepping stones in your career.
Yeah.
I don't think that you need to pretend and devote yourself to absolutely everything that you're doing. But hey, if you're trying, if this truly is a stepping stone, why would you not try
Right.
apply yourself so that you get that good recommendation? Like,
Right.
And that's what's frustrating for me with this whole thing is Andy doesn't want to be a personal assistant. She wants to be a writer. And so she's doing something that's like writing adjacent in the most roundabout way possible. Yeah, you better apply yourself and learn about what you're doing. Otherwise, it's all for nothing.
Right. And so, like, after that speech and after she can't get the flight for Miranda, we do see her, like, getting better at her job. But
Yeah.
when Miranda pretty much yells at her for the flight and she goes and cries to Nigel explains what you just explained. She then says, you're right, I have been screwing up.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why I'm stuck on that line because I would have just said, I'm not applying myself the way I should.
Yes.
Because there's no way you could have gotten that flight. You are doing your job. You just need to, like, apply yourself better.
Yeah, I think that that's what she's expressing. It's just a weird choice of words to say.
Yeah.
'Cause,
I know, I'm picking this apart. I apologize,
She hasn't
listeners.
been
Like,
screwing up. She maybe has just been screwing around. You know what I mean? Like, not taking it seriously.
not taking it seriously.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so then, like, this light bulb goes off and she's like, oh, Nigel, fairy godmother, can essentially, you know, dress me and do my hair. And instead of getting this giant makeover moment, we just get, like, this awesome montage to Madonna's Vogue with all the outfits. It's so good. This is my favorite part of the movie.
Really?
This is my absolute favorite. I love this song so much. I think this is really well done to see, like, her different outfits that she wears.
Nice.
And Emily's impressed too. And
Yeah.
Giselle, who makes an appearance as an
Right.
assistant, as Serena, she goes, you look good.
Yeah. Because everyone has to be a model to work, you know, the phones. And
Well, Giselle, she said she would not do this movie if she was a model. So cast her as something else. So she's
Wow.
like one of the assistants. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I did like the transitions. We're doing some, like,
so
you know,
good.
a taxi cab comes in front of her and then she's wearing a different outfit. It went on a little long. It was like, hey,
And it is,
I
and
can
it's
do it
so,
again.
I know, and it's so on the nose, right?
Yeah,
we are
yeah.
playing Vogue, but
But
like,
it's good. It's fun. It's a movie about
so
fashion.
good.
Like, you know.
It's really good.
Yeah.
And I truly do believe that there is something to be said about dressing for the part, right? Like we talk about we talk about this all the time, like, or how an actor will get into costume and then they can play the part.
Yeah.
And so if you're wearing the clothes, now you can play the part. So like,
Absolutely. And I think for work too. Clearly, I'm not a person who puts value on how someone looks or how someone dresses.
do you really truly believe that?
Me?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, with my whole heart. I do not care. I don't care.
There's not one tinge of like overlook or like a thought about what somebody wears.
Well, okay. No, all right. Let me clarify.
Yeah, please clarify.
I think that if you want to dress in a fun, creative way, I think that that's great. And I'll acknowledge that. And I'll be like, wow, cool hat. Or like, wow, cool outfit. What I mean is like, I'm not impressed by something that you can take on and take off because that's very temporary and you can be a horrible person and dress quote unquote correctly. Nothing really comes with that. You know what I mean?
I used to make judgments about men and their shoe choices.
Oh, yeah?
Like anytime one of my friends would go on a date, I'd be like, what did his shoes look like? Tell me what shoes he's wearing. I will judge him based off his shoes.
Interesting. Well, I own...
I like style. I like when someone has a sense of style. And if they're put together.
Yeah, no. I do too. I don't mean like we should all wear bags.
But you wouldn't be a jerk. Like I wouldn't be a jerk to somebody. I'm not going to diss them.
Oh no. Like if someone came in for a job interview, right? Which
yes.
Over many different jobs, I've done a lot of hiring and training, and you know what a person wears is like the last thing that I'm ever thinking of. You know, like I'm not like, oh, well, he did have nice shoes on, so he's probably qualified to do this thing. It's like, no, that's the easy part.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But I do like this scene. I like this scene as well. Stanley Tucci as Nigel is a delight. I love Stanley Tucci in just about everything I think I've ever seen him in.
Yeah.
He's in this Transformers movie. I don't know if he's in multiple Transformers movies because I don't really watch those movies. I don't enjoy them. But there's one that he's in, and he plays like a scumbag tech billionaire guy. But he just like saved. I saw this in theaters. I went to see it with someone who really wanted. I was like, oh my God. I was just like banging my head against the wall. But Stanley Tucci like saved that for me. So on top of everything else that he's done, I will always thank him for making me laugh at a Transformers movie. But Nigel is very sympathetic. Like we like Nigel, you know?
Yeah.
Especially after he explains what runway like means to him. And then especially after we see him so excited for the new job and then everything's taken away from him. But I kind of view this movie as Alice in Wonderland, where Andy kind of goes down the rabbit hole, emerges on the other side, a changed person, but now she's back into like the real world that she started in. Like when she's at that newspaper, we're back to talking about union workers, you know, sanitation workers. Yeah. I don't think that anything that happens in Runway is good.
For her or in general?
I think just like in general. like I said, like I like Nigel, I like Emily. There are parts of Miranda that I like, but just the whole thing of Nigel agreeing that he thinks that she's fat.
Well, the fat phobia and the fat comments in this are so cringeworthy.
But I think that they're supposed to be.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's so uncomfortable, and I get that.
Yeah. And I think part of the evil that Andy is kind of coming under is when she is happy that she's dropped down to a size 4. And the movie, the tone in the movie doesn't like hold your hand and say to you like, oh, this is bad. Like this is a real warning sign that she is too far gone. The moment is kind of played as just like a nice little thing.
I mean, Emily, she is so obsessed with her weight, and her main goal is to go to Paris Fashion Week.
Yep.
And so she's on this crazy diet where she'll only eat like a cube of cheese if she feels faint, which is just so, it's funny, right? It's so ridiculous.
Well, I could relate to that. As someone who has I've worked several jobs that were extremely long hours. I worked one job where I started at 7:45 in the morning, and we would regularly be leaving between 1 and 2 a.m. every day.
Yeah.
Sundays, we would get out around 7 or 8, but 7 days a week, right? And I would sometimes use the bathroom one time. Sometimes I would get home and use the bathroom for the first time that day.
That's crazy.
And I would literally just eat. If I felt like I was going to pass out, I'd be like, oh my God. And I'd grab something and eat it quick and then go back to work.
Wow.
So I could relate to Emily Blunt's, like, when you feel like you're going to pass out, You eat a block of cheese or a cube of cheese.
And then she says, like, I'm one stomach virus away from, like, my goal weight.
Yep.
Again, on the serious note, that's not good.
No,
but
it's
the
not
way
good.
she delivers it, it's very funny.
But I've also been there where I was, trying to lose weight and I'm exercising and then you get sick and you drop 5 pounds and you're like, well,
yep, that
all right.
sickness looks good on you.
That was easy,
Yeah.
It's so unhealthy. And I guess I would say that's like, I don't want to say a full-on problem that I have with the movie. I just think a more talented director would have fleshed those out to be
But it's
clearer.
2006. It's 2006.
It's
so
2000
let's keep that in mind. This is like a time capsule for the time.
Yeah. It's like the ideas are there. Like, I don't think in any way this movie is trying to say Andy going down to a size 4 is good. Hooray, everyone. I don't think they're trying to say that. I just think a better director would have made that more clear that she's like brainwashed, basically.
Yeah. When Andy goes to James Holt's party to pick up Miranda's dress design, James Holt is a designer who works closely with Runway.
Yep.
And she meets Christian Thompson,
Yes.
played by Simon Baker,
Yes.
who Andy's so excited to meet him. She's read his work, like you said at the top of the show. And he's like, oh, send me your work. It's a shame you're working for Miranda, but like, send it to me. I'll read it and I'll like put you in contact. However, he doesn't deliver it like that. I hate this guy the most. And I'll get to Nate and I'll get to her friends and leave Miranda as you will. And Andy annoys me. But like this one, I know he knows who he is. And I respect that. I hate his scarf the most.
Yes.
I hate this guy.
Very 2004 through 2007. Yeah.
And I need to know if you feel the same way or if I'm, for whatever reason, this guy is just not doing it for me. I don't like him.
Even though I watched the movie recently, this time around when they're out to eat in Paris and he's just, grilling her over Miranda, I was like, oh, wait, is he like doing a story on Miranda? And he's trying to like dig information out but that doesn't end up happening. But that's the kind of vibe that you get from him the whole time. It's like he's so smitten with Andy and it's like...
But he's also not desperate because he does tell her that, like, oh, I'm not desperate for, any woman.
Yeah, it's weird. It's real weird because they don't see each other, so I don't know how long she's supposed to be at Runway for, 9 months?
Yeah, 10 months, about that.
We know it's less than a year, right?
Yep.
He only sees her a few times throughout that time. And so it's like weeks to months are going by and like you see her and you're still just like, the world stops and you're like, oh my God, is your boyfriend still alive?
But he's so slimy. And he has so much confidence, which is great. And I think he also is impressed with her writing, but it's also like, oh, I could get her if I wanted.
I don't think I don't even buy that he read anything of hers.
Well, he said, I didn't read a lot because you sent over a lot, but I read a little bit.
Yeah.
And I think you have great talent. I can introduce you to someone at the New Yorker or what have you.
Yeah.
I hate him. I really hate him like the most. And I'm going to say, yeah.
I just want to say, you're already late for your boyfriend's birthday. The whole point of this thing is to become a writer.
Well,
this writer that you love, who is favorable to you, even if he's romantically interested in you, but he's still like on your side getting you Harry Potter manuscripts, right? He says, hey, come in and meet my editor. And you're like, I would be calling my boyfriend right then and be like, hey, I'm going to be really late. But the good news is I can leave this terrible job because I'm about to go meet someone who will employ me for what I want to do.
Right. But there's not enough fire under her ass at that point because she's so used to doing things for Miranda in the fear that she will lose her job. She almost loses sight of what she's aiming to do.
Yeah. And I think that that's another thing that happens. Like I said, it's like Alice in Wonderland. Like you go in, because you're chasing the white rabbit and then you get caught up in all of this random, crazy characters, nonsense.
Yeah.
And before you know it, you don't know why you're there.
Yeah. Right. I mean, Andy, she pulls off the Harry Potter manuscript.
Yeah.
Which was like insane,
Well,
right?
the steak in 15 minutes is actually more insane because of how long it takes to cook a steak of that thickness. You're telling me you're going to get from a top floor of a building in New York City down onto street level to a restaurant, back up in 15. Even if the steak was already ready, it'd be impossible. 15 minutes?
Okay, I'll give you that. I didn't take note because I don't eat meat, so I have no
Yeah.
idea. I mean, the fact
Oh,
that
that was a thick boy.
that was, and the fact that like the restaurant's not even open yet, so
Right.
she's wondering like, how am I going to get the steak? She gets the Harry Potter manuscripts with the help of Christian. Miranda's very impressed. She's also given the task of delivering the book, which is the mock-up of Runway every night. The assistant has to wait around to 10:30 until it's done to deliver it with her dry cleaning to her home. The book is real. I was reading like a comparison of, Vogue to Runway to Anna to Miranda. The book is very much real.
At one point, she gets a phone call at 6:15 in the morning. Hey, you need to come in right now. Hey, you need to stay until 10 or 10:30 at night. None of those things bothered me. And I don't want to come out as like a pro unhealthy work environment type person, but I just got to say, if I got a job as Anna Wintour's personal assistant, I would expect to have a crazy schedule. I would expect to be working. Do you know what I mean? And I'm not saying that it's right. And if I was running the company, I would try my best to not do anything like that, right?
Right.
Maybe just hire a third assistant, I guess, if it's this crazy. Like, I'm sure you've got money. But when it's like, oh, you got to stay till 10:30. I'm like, stay till 10:30? Okay, go work at a gas station. You'll be there till 2 a.m. Oh, poor baby. Like, give me a break.
But again, we're coming right out of a cushy Northwestern college experience working in New York City. You have no idea. I remember like I interned at Cablevision, right? And I did not want to be there. And I showed up and I like did the work, but I remember thinking like, I'm not going to work in like local news.
Yeah.
So I like didn't perform the best as I should have. I also interned at Wife Swap, and I learned very early on, you better carry a notebook with you, and you better be sure to write down everything. I learned a lot there. However, I didn't network as much as I should because I was a young 20 thinking like, oh yeah, I'll just like, maybe people know better, but I think it takes until you live it to really have it stick.
Yeah, yeah.
And so I kind of get Andy in this of like, oh my God, like she's so naive and not aware yet.
Yeah, she's so out of her depth. And like, if I'm this company, I'm not looking for young people to work for me. Give me a personal assistant who's 45 years old, who's done this.
Well, right. And then it's like, who's going to put up with this? And it's probably very little pay. Also, like we keep hearing over and over, like, oh, 1 million girls would want this job.
Yeah.
You're very lucky.
Yeah.
That comes up a couple of times to the point where you're like, okay, this is like humorous that we keep hearing this. Like we hear it from Irv, who's in charge of, he's like the business guy.
Yeah.
And we even hear it from Andy's friend, who we will get to Andy's friends. But that line just like kind of bothered me. I was like, why do we have to keep driving this home?
Yeah. I mean, it's probably true, but we never see that in the movie. Like we don't see her, when she goes for the interview, there's not like 30 other people lined up who like, you know.
Like comparing, like we could have had that actually, seeing who else was up for the job, even though like Emily's like, oh, the last 2 girls were awful. So I had to fire them. But Miranda's very impressed by Andy, and she tells her like, hey, I need the best team when I go to Paris. It's you, and you need to tell Emily, which is insane, right? Another thing, like Miranda's like, let my assistant tell my other assistant. And so this bothers me so much because Emily gets hit by a taxi. Why wasn't that just the reason she didn't go to Paris?
Right. I don't get it.
You're injured. You can't go. I mean, Andy could have just kept that to herself and be like, well, I have to go now because you're injured.
Right. And I mean, I think it's Miranda. Miranda says like, oh,
you have to tell her.
So if she didn't tell her, she'd be like, well, why didn't you tell her? I don't care that she's injured. It seems like at that point in the movie, you're going to get a little break. And you'll be like, oh, thank God we caught a break. We don't have to crush her. But no, we still do.
With like how you said, like Emily's kind of in another movie and she's like doing comedic things. Her getting hit by a car just adds to that.
It's ridiculous. Yeah.
It just adds to that.
And then she's like ripping apart the dinner roll, eating it. And
yeah, like you don't deserve to go. You eat carbs.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's funny. I mean, the way she delivers it. It's
I've
funny.
done no carbs before, and it makes you real
Oh,
angry.
I know. It makes you hangry and a nasty person.
Yeah, it ain't good. It turns out we
You need
really
some
enjoy
carbs.
bread.
You need some carbs. So with Andy moving to New York, she moves with her boyfriend, Nate, who's a chef or an aspiring to be, works in a kitchen.
Yes.
Okay.
He's not a chef.
Okay. He's right, but I think he's aspiring to be sous chef, as we learn at the end of the movie.
Yep.
Also, her best friend Lily, who she's known for 16 years, that we learn, and their other friend Doug.
Yeah, just Doug. Yeah.
Guy from Mad Men.
Yeah.
There's so much talk about how Nate and the friends are the true villains of this movie.
Mm-hmm.
And upon this rewatch, I disagree.
Interesting. Okay.
Like, highly disagree.
Okay.
And I don't want to come defending Nate, but Andy first gets this job. She complains to her friend. She's like, I just have to stick it out for 1 year. They toast, like, yeah, here's to paying the bills, right?
Right. Jobs that pay the bills. Which
Jobs that pay the bills.
we can all relate to.
Fine.
Yeah.
Andy starts to excel. She's doing better. She has to work late, but she's starting to like dress the part. She even says like, oh, runway is more than just fashion. Like, look, there's actual like legitimate articles written in here.
Joan Didion. Yeah.
Joan Didion, right? She complains to Nate, and Nate most of the time is just listening. So all he's hearing is how much she doesn't like this job. She mocks the girls who work there, the clackers as she calls them. And so finally, when it gets to the point where Nate has this discussion with her, where they ultimately break up, but he says, I wish you would just do it with a little integrity. At least own up to what you're doing. And that's what I have to agree with. At least own up to like, I am doing this because I want to get somewhere.
Right.
I can't believe I'm defending Nate in that part.
Moment. Yeah.
That moment. And Ant agreed with me. Like, we watched it last night, and he was like, I don't know, I have to kind of agree with this. Like, at least just admit to that, like, you know, because in my relationship with Ant, there have been times I've been at a job, and all I do is complain.
Yep.
Yet he sees me continue to do it.
Yep.
And we've had very similar conversations to this. And then Lily, who, like, judges her, you know, she sees Christian.
Right. Yes.
Which, you know, kisses her on the cheek and you've changed and the old Andy I know. And I just think, like, Andy is evolving. Also, you're all in your young 20s. You're all your own personal villain. And you should have just, like, been closer to Doug because clearly he's very interested. I think he understands.
Yeah. Lily, I understand if you see what you perceive as someone cheating on someone with someone else.
Yes,
and like
I do too.
blowing a gasket and being like, oh my God. So I get that. In Andy's defense, it was just a kiss on the cheek.
I also think Andy could have said, oh, it's this guy. Like, she just says it's a guy from work.
I mean, like, you're
Explain
all young
it better.
New York City professional people. They're schmoozing and kissing on the cheek. I'm not saying that it's like, oh, it's no big deal, but like, it's not like she caught them making out. Like she's acting like she just saw the craziest thing ever, and it's like, you know,
Right.
I that seemed a little weird. But what bothered me the most about them this time around was just the scene where they're throwing her phone around.
Oh, I
when her
hate
boss
that.
is calling.
Absolutely. Because,
That is so uncool. I don't care if it sucks and she's always talking to her and she's always like, I don't care. That's really not cool. And that part really annoyed me this time. But
I hated that. But it shows you of like the friends that you met in college or your childhood friends sometimes don't understand the path you're choosing to take.
Yeah.
And that's a really hard pill to swallow.
It's like, hey, you all just toasted about you need this job to pay the bills.
Right.
Leave her alone. She has a
Leave her
job.
alone.
We have
Right.
jobs, it turns out.
Yeah.
We can't all
In
hang
New York
out
City, you
all
all-
the time. Yeah, and that, yeah, so. All right. I somewhat agree with you about Nate.
Just this
time
part.
around.
Just this part. Because at the
Other-
end, we'll get to Nate at the end, which I have some ish with.
Other parts of him I do kind of understand because me and my wife have had different seasons and times in our life where one person was working all the time. Like I said, there was a time I was working from 7:45 in the morning till 1:30 at night. I wasn't around. You know what I mean? While the person can understand, it still sucks. And so for Nate, like when she does miss his birthday and he's kind of pouty about it, that really annoyed me like the first time around. This time around, I was like, okay, I kind of get it. Like I kind of understand. And it's paralleled with Miranda's husband when she walks up the stairs and she hears him saying, I was at the restaurant, you weren't there. And I knew that everyone was just sitting around thinking, there he is waiting for her again.
Yep.
Now, that's an insecurity that you should deal with if you want to be partners with, I don't know, the world's most powerful fashion editor.
Right.
You should probably get over those things. But it can still suck. So I was easier on Nate this time around. But here is where that all stops. Nate is a cook in a restaurant in New York City in 2006. This guy would be working 80 hours a week. He would be working his birthday. He would be working every weekend, odd hours, early, late. This dude wouldn't be home. The restaurant industry is incredibly difficult to work your way up in. Very easy access, very easy entry, right? You walk in the door, hey, let me wash dishes. You know, if they need somebody, boom, they don't care. You're going to get a job. If you can do it, you can do it. And that's the whole thing about restaurants, right? It doesn't matter if you've gone to culinary school. If you can do it, you don't need accreditation. You know what I'm saying? But in order to work your way up is extremely difficult. And like I said, it's not good. It's not like I'm saying, oh, people should be working 70 hours a week. You know, that's not healthy no matter what you're doing. But the fact that this character is written to have such a problem with her inconsistent schedule and, like, I'm sorry, he would understand. He
Right.
would just understand. He would know because he would be doing the same thing to her, maybe worse. Andy has to wait until 10:30 at night. Nate would be working until 2 in the morning.
Right.
It's
Right.
New York City. They're not just hanging out in the suburbs and they're coming home at 5 o'clock at night. So this is the part I will not budge on this. It still makes me so livid. He makes a grilled cheese sandwich that looks like garbage.
He
in the
burns
beginning.
it.
It's
so burnt.
terrible. He says that there's $8 of Jarlsberg in there. In 2006 prices, $8 of Jarlsberg would be like an entire wedge. That's not correct. I'm sorry. I don't want to go
Okay,
off on this too much.
Nope.
But this whole thing makes me so mad.
I'm going to just say this about this situation. Give Nate a different job if we're going to write
Give
him
him
this
a
way.
totally different job.
Because
yeah.
it doesn't make sense.
It doesn't line up. The
doesn't
idea is
line
it
up.
doesn't line up at all.
Why
And
did we
then,
make him? Yeah, go ahead.
When they're broken up and she comes back, he says, oh, I'm going to be the new sous chef at, I can't remember what he says, but I looked it up, some restaurant in Boston.
Yeah,
It's like,
Oak
all
Room.
right, well, say goodbye to Nate. The sous chef? You're going to be the sous chef of an upscale restaurant in Boston? Okay.
I get it. I get it. But I don't think that makes him the villain. This just makes
No, it
this is
doesn't-
like poorly written. It's
Yeah, it's
poorly
poorly
written
written.
for
Yeah.
this character. Give
No,
him another job. give him another job.
I did feel better about him on the whole because, like I said, I don't think anyone in this movie is really good, and that's
No.
Yeah. Well, I'll wait till we talk about the
and
end.
also like it sucks when your friends don't understand you, or if you have a friend that's going through something and you can't understand them. Because a lot of people will say, like, they're the villains. They didn't support Andy. And it's like, well, if you're in their position and your friend is changing, sometimes it's really hard to accept that.
Yeah, I mean, I think the best that you can do is just take what you can get.
Right.
You know, when they're around, you're polite. How are you?
Right.
I love you. I'll see you next time. And eventually, you know, the ripples widen and you see them less and less and less and less. And that's life.
That's life. But we're also asking a lot for these young, naive 20-year-olds.
I guess so. I get. But like,
But that's why I've taken it back where they're not villains. They're just not villains.
No.
They're just
I don't
not
think.
evolved. They're just
I ran
not
a
evolved yet.
poll on Twitter.
Yeah.
And I asked. I
Yeah.
said, who is the villain in this
Yeah.
movie?
Yeah.
So I said, who is the villain of The Devil Wears Prada? And it only got 40 votes. I didn't run it for very long because I wanted to get the results before we were recorded.
Yeah.
20% said Miranda, 57% said Nate, 10% said Andy, and then other was 13%.
Did they comment?
Someone said there's no villain in the movie. It's not that kind of movie. Someone said it's her friends. Someone said, I don't get hating on Adrian Granier's character. Sean said those chunky shoes Andrew was wearing in the beginning of the movie were the villain.
LOL. LOL.
But
I love
Nate
those, actually.
overwhelmingly won the villain poll.
And when
like
I asked
you were
on
saying-
Instagram, that also came through. Nate and the friends. Nate didn't support her. Andy's
Yeah.
friends didn't support her.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. No, everyone's at fault. It's
Everyone's at
I
fault.
really think this is a movie about no one being good. And you just kind of come out on the other side and you're like, okay.
Right. And I also think it's a really good movie for discussion of power dynamics.
And that is the number one thing that I took away from my watch this time. Yes, it's a movie about fashion, but I was mostly just it was like I could see in my mind, kind of like watching like an episode of Game of Thrones or something, where you have Andy and Emily and Miranda and Nigel and Jacqueline and Christian, and like just how all of their circles are kind of interwoven, and it's all about power. So yeah, I kind of felt like I saw beyond the fashion and the Andy of it all, and we didn't even really talk about Anne Hathaway fully.
No, we didn't.
She's amazing.
No,
She's great.
She's so good. I love her.
Yes. She had such a bad season where it seemed like everyone just loved to hate on her.
Yeah, what was that about? I wasn't a part of that season, but...
I don't know. I never understood it. It was like they liked her for being boring or plain or an actress who acts. I don't understand it. I really don't.
Yeah.
But I love her.
I love her too. And I love her in this movie. So I know I said that the whole Vogue sequence was my favorite. And it is, but when we get to the Paris stuff, that's actually my favorite part of the movie.
Okay.
Because I feel like, one, we're getting towards the end, so resolution is coming, or a lesson, if you will. But we're also done with, like, the friends.
Yeah.
And we also get a glimpse into Miranda.
Yes.
And just another layer. And so we have this scene where Andy walks in and Miranda is on her couch. She has no makeup on. She's in a robe and she's upset because her third husband is filing for divorce.
Yep. It's quite striking.
It is. And she opens up just a little bit to Andy in between her being focused on work.
Mm-hmm.
And Andy, like, truly starts to, like, I think she starts to respect her once Andy starts dressing the part. But at this moment, she kind of becomes, like, defensive of her.
Yes, yes, yes.
And I thought Meryl did a wonderful job in this scene.
She does great. And when Andy says, is there anything else I can do for you? And she says, yeah, your job.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, I can relate to that, actually.
Right?
When someone wants to help you kind of emotionally and
Yep.
you're like, that's really not what I need. I just need for you to do X, Y, and Z because I am not okay to do these things right now.
And I'm not going to talk further with you about this.
Yeah.
Just one little part that I always wondered about is they're going over the seating for the luncheon. And out of all of the celebrities to pick, Miranda says, "Oh, we have to move Snoop to my table."
Yeah.
Why Snoop?
I don't know.
I mean, why not, right? Yeah. But like...
He might be a staple at runway shows. I don't know.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe. And then we have the toast scene with Nigel comes in. He's all excited because after 18 years of pretty much working under Miranda, he is going to work with James Holt and lead his global brand.
Yep.
And at first, Andy's like, "Oh my God, you're leaving. You sure you're going to do this?" And he's like, "Oh, Miranda put me up to this. I can't believe I'm getting my dream job." So this is like so exciting. But at this point, are you aware? Do you know that this obviously isn't going to work out, or do you think this is going to work out?
No, I thought it was going to work out. And this leads towards like my big problem with this movie is we introduce these very dramatic, backstabby storyline way too late.
Backstabby, or is it just showing of what a cutthroat world and you do what you do to have to protect yourself?
Yeah, she does, give up Nigel to save her skin. But to me, it's just like introducing this idea of, Jacqueline taking over for Miranda and all this stuff. We don't see any of that until we get to Paris. We don't know anything about Nigel moving on until we get to Paris. That's what I mean. Like, it just seems like it kind of comes out of nowhere.
Yeah, I mean, I think sometimes deals are kept secret and like how much are we going to spend on these characters? Because Miranda does say, "Oh, I've known about this for a while. I just kind of had to orchestrate it and like get Jacqueline to accept the job. And there's no way anybody else can do my job."
Yeah.
Also, I presented Irv like a list of people who I've brought to Runway, which are like editors and photographers and designers. They would all leave.
Yeah.
So you're shit out of luck, essentially.
Yeah.
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 I mean, yeah.
I just wish there was more hints of this being where the movie's going to kind of, it just kind of like the plot line is introduced and then it resolves all within like 10 minutes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
How'd you feel about Andy going out with Christian in Paris?
Hey, you're broken up. You're in Paris. You're young. Go for it.
Totally.
Yeah.
I hate him and his scarf. Yeah. I just hate him so much in his scarf. And he, has a mock-up of Runway under Jacqueline.
I mean, come on.
Yeah, and to him, he's just like, this is the business, baby. Like,
right. Would you have a mock-up? It's like, you're going to be...
It's so weird.
He's like, "Oh, I'm going to be in charge of all the editorials. And so in my bag, I just so happen to have a 2-foot by 2-foot mock-up of what the first cover will be." That was a clunky way of breaking this part. Yeah, real weird.
And I guess no one would tell you, so you're also in the dark because he looks surprised when it actually, when Jacqueline ends up working for James Holt.
Yeah.
Then we get the moment where Miranda and Andy are in the car. They're on their way to their next event. She tells Andy, like, "Oh, I knew about this for a long time. I just had to work it out and orchestrate it. But I have to say, I admire how much you wanted to tell me," because Andy does want to chase down Miranda to tell her that this is actually going to be taking place. And she says, "I see a great deal of myself in you." And, Andy's so taken aback by this statement. And she's like, "I would never do what you did." And she's like, "You already did. You did it to Emily." Mm-hmm. I disagree with this. I disagree with this. Like, Nigel worked for you for 18 years. You consider him a friend. It's like the only person she respects on a light level. I think she respects her team, but we never see her be nasty to Nigel.
Yeah.
Andy felt threatened if she didn't go to Paris. This is like manipulative. How did you read this scene?
I had said earlier that I have like a new big problem with this movie. And this scene is it. I think we get the big Nigel moment at the luncheon where we've already kind of spent our emotional juice, you know. And then this scene in the limo should be the scene of the movie, because this is what we've been building to all along is, yeah, Andy, you could be like me. You are like me, and you've become more like me. And it causes Andy to just like jump out of the car and run away. Not that dramatic. And she finally realized like, oh, I need to, you know, break myself completely, throw my phone away. It's like, you know, she was in a cult or like she's been kidnapped or something. And
she broke the chains.
Escape, yeah, is the only kind of option here. And I just feel like they don't.
It doesn't deliver.
They don't land it. The Nigel scene lands. That works out well.
Especially because she says like, or he says, I hope, like she owes me. She'll pay me back. This will come around. And Andy says, do you really think so? That's still the case. And he goes, I hope that I have to hope.
Yeah.
Because all he has is hope at this point.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's a bummer. It's a bummer that this doesn't work. It just doesn't work as well as it should.
But we get the great line of like, everybody wants to be us, which originally was going to be everybody wants to be me. But Meryl was like, we need to change that. So everybody wants to be us.
Right.
And Andy just finally throws her sidekick in the fountain. Like, how do you get home on your plane? But like, we can't worry about the logistics. So when we get back to New York, she meets Nate. She apologizes to him and he doesn't apologize back.
Yes.
I think a little bit of ownership should have taken place here, Nate. I'm asking a lot of you, but I think you could have been like, I'm sorry too.
Especially now that it's kind of like, hey, you know, I'm moving and everything's fine. You quit your job. Like,
right.
Yeah.
And then they kind of like, how can we make this work? And he jokes like there's Jarlsberg in Boston.
Yeah.
But then he says like, oh, what are you up to? And she says, I have a job interview. People read this as like they got back together. I think maybe they like hung out, but they don't end up together. This is one of those like, we're going to try, but it's actually not going to work.
I don't think they get back together because if they couldn't handle not being around each other when they lived in the same apartment, how are you going to do that? Two cities. Right. New York City and Boston, if you look at a map, it ain't that far. It's far.
It's far. It's far enough. They couldn't make this work.
It's far, you know?
Yeah. And so Andy goes on her job interview and the guy asks her about what kind of blip was it working at Runway.
Yeah.
And he's like, I called over there for a reference and then I got a fax from, Miranda Priestley herself saying that like you were the biggest disappointment out of all the assistants, but I'd be the biggest idiot if I didn't hire you. Mm-hmm. I like that.
Yeah, I like that too. I would not be surprised if she didn't do that and she tried to kind of ruin her career.
Because she does. I think she does. She respects Andy on a level.
Yeah. I can see an alternate version of this scene where he's like, oh, she said that you're the worst. And then he's like, but, you know, that's Miranda Priestley and she's crazy. You seem fine.
Right.
But maybe that would be too depressing to realize that it really, truly all was for naught.
Right. And so Andy gets the job. She's walking past where the building is for Runway. Makes her think of Emily. She calls Emily and it's like, hey, can you take the clothes off of my back from when I got from Paris? And Emily smiles because Emily just wanted the clothes. I'll have to take them in, but I want them.
Right.
And then our final scene, we have Miranda getting into her car. Her and Andy lock eyes. Andy waves. Miranda obviously doesn't wave back, but she gets in and she does like a slight smile. Mm-hmm. And she tells her driver, go.
Yep.
And that's how we end it.
Yep. That's all.
That's all.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So this the budget for this film was $41 million. It made $327 million at the box office.
Wow.
Yeah. It has a 75% rating on Rotten Tomatoes, 3.9 on Letterboxd, 62% on Metacritic. Ebert gave this 2 stars.
Huh. Interesting.
What made you go interesting?
That seems not great.
Ebert?
Yeah.
His review sucked.
Oh, no.
It provided nothing. He was just like, oh, perhaps I don't mean to mock Ebert, but
Sure.
the way I read it of just like, he thought that the character of Nate and Christian, the actors, should have swapped and it would have read better. Like Adrian should have played Christian and Simon should have played
Okay.
Nate.
All right. Get a little fan casting in the way of...
I guess. I was like,
the
this
movie?
is providing me nothing. So I know you reached out on Twitter with the poll, but did anybody on there have anything else to say?
Yeah. So Heather Stewart, at Heather J. Stewart, says, Meryl was nominated for an Oscar in the lead actress category. Do you agree she is co-lead, or should she have been in supporting? If she goes in supporting, does she win?
No, I think lead.
I think at the most she's the co-lead. I think she might be the supporting character. I think Andy is the main character.
Yeah, but
And this gets into how the Oscar categories are broken down, which, quite frankly, I think they're extremely limited.
Yeah.
So if they weren't as poorly plotted out as they are, we wouldn't have these discussions all the time of like, well, what is a supporting actor? What is a lead actor? But I'm not really surprised that she was nominated for an Oscar for this. Like I said, it's a great performance.
Yeah.
Not necessarily a great movie, but great performance. The Dagzaba system at Melissa Dags says, people love to quote the Cerulean monologue. It's great. But for me, nothing beats the steely delivery of, by all means, move at a glacial pace. You know how that thrills me. And as terrible as Miranda and her fat-phobic lackeys are, Andy's friends also suck, especially Nate.
Yep.
Jamila at Wild Cat Tin Wow.
Ooh, she's updated.
Changed the handle.
Yeah.
She says, the only question I have is, did Demalchier confirm?
I have Patrick.
Yeah. Patrick. I love that. At the end of the montage where it shows her like learning how to do her job, the big ending is that she can call someone and get them on the phone.
She got Patrick.
Well, okay. Britt Chavez at Britt Chavez says, hot take, but I don't love Anne Hathaway in this movie. I get so annoyed with her character. Meryl, Emily Blunt, and Stanley Tucci are the true stars. Such a quotable movie, too. The writing is superb. And then the okay thumb finger emoji. Sean Shank, at Tyler_Burnham, says, which belt would you have chosen?
How would I just say the one on the left, I guess.
I would have chosen the one on the right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great. We each get one.
Alex Arellano, at Alex_172005, posted a little video of Paul Rudd saying, oh my God, I love that movie. And then he says, no joke, The Devil Wears Prada is one of my guilty pleasures. I watch it at least 3 to 4 times a year.
Wow.
Yeah. Wyatt, at Flicksploitation, says, do you think the boyfriend and Andy's friends were the true villains of the movie?
No.
And yeah, like we said, I think everyone's bad. I think they're all villains. So yes.
No, like I said, and I also think I like the part we skipped over it, but when Andy's at dinner with Christian and she says, if Miranda was a man, this would be treated totally different.
Absolutely.
And it's a movie about power dynamics, a work-life balance, and accepting what you want in life, figuring that out.
Yep.
Yeah.
And
everybody's the villain. Everybody's their own villain in this movie.
Yep. And you had mentioned to me how Meryl Streep based this off of Clint Eastwood.
Yes, the way she spoke.
And finally, Michael Lee Lewis, friend from Wales.
We're always like,
I know.
Louis Lewis?
I know.
From Wales?
At Lou35033 says, I actually really like this one. It's one of them you can put on and not think about.
Yeah.
Her friends are arses in this, though. They did get on my nerves, especially knowing she only had to work there for a year, which is also a great point. Miranda just amuses me. I've known a few bosses who think they are really important.
Miranda was really important, though.
She is.
She is the only eye that matters in this universe in
Yep.
terms of the fashion industry.
Yep.
All right, let's go over to a segment of the show where we hear from people that we don't know. It's called Half Star, 3-Star, 5-Star. So these are reviews from letterboxd.com. We start with a half-star review, which is the lowest rating you can give a movie, and we go all the way up to a 5-star review, which is the highest rating you can give a movie. So, for the half-star, this person says, I know I shouldn't take this film too seriously and literally, but this isn't a comedy. It's actually a psychological thriller with elements of horror about a sociopathic, manipulative, and sadistic capitalistic monster. Poor Andrea is slowly slipping into madness that makes her change her appearance, lifestyle, ruin her personal relationship. Not to mention toxic workspace, coworkers who always bring her down and treat her like shit. She constantly lives in fear, stress, and anxiety. She has no time. And on top of all of that, she's severely underpaid. There's no sleigh, no girl boss. It's not a light comedy. It's an actually scary story. I was genuinely uneasy watching this.
Why is that a 1-star review?
Half star.
Oh, that's what I mean. They just described a good movie. Like,
Well, I guess they wanted this to be a comedy.
well, it's not.
Like Emily Blunt provides the comedic relief,
Yeah, but really none of the rest of it is. It's funny. No. Okay.
3-star review. I understand why it would be someone's favorite movie or just a pure comfort film for others, even if it wasn't for me. The performances are, of course, wonderful and the costumes meticulous and varied. A lot of the plot goes where you think it would, but honestly, that probably helps it as a comfort film. I can see someone watching this on cable every single time it's on.
There you go.
And I have to agree, this is a very rewatchable,
Yeah.
obviously I feel that way.
Yeah.
It's easy to watch, very easy. All right, our 5-star review says, this classic movie. It's similar to Cruella, where fashion meets media. The thing about this movie, though, is how realistic it is. The fact that the character Miranda Priestley is based on the real-life personnel Anna Wintour of Vogue adds a whole other level to this. May 2024 edit. I've discovered that it's actually Anna Wintour who more or less mimicked Miranda Priestley's lifestyle after the movie was released.
Wow.
Interesting. The ending does get me, though, with Andrea leaving Runway after all. The first time I watched this, I was so bothered and thought if I were her, I would have ditched the boyfriend in a second and continued to develop my career. But then I watched it a few more times and understood the fact that this may be what I want, but not what Andrea wants. Sure, it's glamorous and exciting, the career in fashion, but Andrea has prepared her life for journalism, and who knows what will happen if she stays at this job for 10 years and the excitement wears off. So I understand her. Overall, this film is a classic, one of my favorite movies for sure.
Very nice.
Yeah, I don't know about that, like 2024 edit. I don't know if that's true or not.
Yeah, I cannot speak to that, unfortunately.
I don't know about that.
Yeah.
But happy for you, 5-star. All right, let's do our happies and crappies.
All right.
Yeah, Seth, you go first. What's your happy and crappy for this movie?
My happy is, I'm going to say Stanley Tucci. I'm not going to say Nigel because, again, terrible person. I mean, like, I'm sorry. Like, I feel for him. I like him, but not great stuff coming out of this dude. But Stanley Tucci, delight. And I think he's like such a perfect balance to Miranda and to Andy, where Emily Blunt, like I said, she feels like she's a little outside of this movie. Stanley Tucci, he's the warm center at the middle of it. And then my crappy is Nate. I'm sorry. Like, as someone who works in food, I will never get over this. It enrages me.
Okay. My happy is Madonna Vogue fashion sequence. I love it, even if it is on the nose. My crappy is all the talk around body image.
Sure.
Yeah. And also the corn chowder. Gross.
You texted me out of the blue and said, "Do you like corn chowder?" And I didn't remember that was a line from this. And so I was like, yeah, of course. Like, I love corn chowder. And I don't remember what your response was. But I
didn't
like,
respond.
Was that the wrong thing to say?
I left you on red, and then you followed up with, was that the wrong answer?
Yeah.
And I was just like, no.
Yeah.
I was just like,
So then
ugh.
as I was watching it, I was like, oh, right, of course.
Right. All right, so we rate a movie as a schmovie, movie, or film. We give it a rating of 1 to 5 stars. We give our final thoughts, recommendations. If you're new here and you're wondering what a schmovie is, I don't know what it is.
Yeah, we don't really know.
It's just, you feel it in your gut.
Mm-hmm.
It's a schmovie, and that's how you would say it.
Mm-hmm.
Seth, do you want me to go first? Do you want to go first?
Whichever.
You go first. So
Okay.
I'm gonna tell you what I think you rated it.
Okay.
So you originally logged it and rated it 3 stars, and I actually thought you were going to say 3 stars.
Oh, okay.
And I think you're rating this a movie.
I am rating this a movie, and I'm actually going to say 3.5 stars. I'm actually going to go up on my rewatch. Like I said, this felt like a different movie my second time around, and I was totally floored. Not by the film, but just how differently I was perceiving everyone in the film. And as far as a recommendation goes, I would say it's worth watching for Meryl Streep's performance. And we talked, this is going to be the longest episode that we've put out in a really, really long time. I think that if you were a young adult around this time period, this will bring up a lot of discussion and question and memories for you. So I do kind of recommend it.
Nice.
Yep. Walk,
Okay.
don't run to see. That's my recommendation. For you, I really wasn't sure where we were going to end up. So I went, perhaps a little conservatively, I went 3.5 stars.
I am, in fact, rating this 3.5 stars.
Wow, this is the first one I've gotten right.
And I am rating this a movie.
Nice.
And I am recommending it if you haven't seen it, and kind of just piggybacking off of what you said of if you grew up around, like, you know, if you're in your late teens, early 20s in 2006, I think this is going to bring up a lot. I feel like it's kind of a time capsule. It's got a great cast. And I think if you watch it now with adult eyes, you will have good discussions about power balances, what it is to work towards something you really want, how much it means to you, and your relationships in life can suffer from that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's honestly right now, and I talked to you about this off mic, of like, I'm always fascinated about how people work in a creative field, are married, have kids, like, how do you, and have passion projects. I'm like, what's suffering? Something has got to be suffering.
Yeah.
There is no way you're doing all of it perfectly.
Yeah.
There's no way.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
Yeah.
a good, it is a good kind of meditation on work-life balance.
Yeah.
Hey, if you've got good work-life balance and you're listening to this, maybe you're listening to it at work. I don't know. We'd love it if you give us a rating and a review wherever you're listening. Maybe 5 stars. I don't know. That'd be cool. Maybe say, hey, good job, cool show. I don't know.
Can I interject here?
Sure.
I was hoping to, like, give something to the audience. If you've made it this far, I want you to send us a mysterious emoji cat.
Whoa.
So you can drop that cat in a DM, in a tweet to Seth, in an email. Just drop a cat. I want to see if you've gotten this far and if you will take part in this challenge.
Okay, give us the cats.
Give us the cat. Okay, continue, Seth.
Like May-chelle said, you can also send us an email, moviefriendspodcast@gmail.com. We would love to hear from you. It brightens up our day, our week even. You can also support the show, patreon.com/moviefriendspodcast. $5 a month gets you access to all of our additional episodes, our patron-only Discord, and you get to vote on episodes like this one. I don't know when we would have done The Devil Wears Prada, but you know what? I am so glad that people voted for this one because I really enjoyed revisiting it and talking about it. You also get to vote on monthly themes, which brings us to next month's theme.
I can't believe it. We're entering June.
May-chelle is over. Good job.
May-chelle is over.
Round of applause, everyone, for May-chelle.
Thank you for coming along on my therapy journey. Because these movies stirred up some stuff, minus Camp Nowhere. That was just for fun.
So if you're a patron, you are able to nominate a theme, and then everyone votes on all of the themes. And there were some really interesting ones this month. The interesting ones got some votes. I was like, wow, this is cool. But one category overwhelmingly won, and I'm excited about it because this is something that we haven't even come remotely close to talking about on this show. So for June, we will be doing documentaries.
Whoa!
Yes. And I always struggle with, oh my God, what films do we put into a theme? And I got to say, this is like the biggest theme that we've, you know what I'm saying? Like documentaries, it's its whole own separate thing. It's huge. It's huge. And so where do you even go? And so for our first episode on documentaries, we're going to be talking about The Thin Blue Line from 1988, and it's directed by Errol Morris. It's 103 minutes, and it is currently streaming on Criterion Channel and Netflix.
I have no idea what that even, like, can I have a little something?
Well, Errol Morris is one of the big American documentary makers. And so to kick this month off, I wanted to do something from Errol Morris because it would be crazy if we did this whole month and we didn't do anything by him.
Okay, that actually gives me nothing.
Okay.
Because you're not telling me, like, what it's about.
Okay. I don't know how much I want to give you. That's the thing.
Okay, so I'm going in completely blind. Like, you know, we're going back to me not watching movies, not really knowing much. So when I make my rewatch thought, it's going to be like, well, I have no idea what the thin blue line. Thin blue line?
The Thin Blue Line, yes. I'll tell you what. I will read you half of the description.
Just give me, like, 3 words.
A softcore movie, Dr. Death, a chocolate milkshake, a nosy blonde, and the Carol Burnett Show.
What?
Solving this mystery is going to be murder.
Okay. All right. Here we go. I feel like we're back to normal, folks. We are back to where we started our roots.
Hey, I think May-chelle should just take over the whole show and she should just run it each month. What do you think, guys?
I don't think so. Wow.
All right.
Alrighty.
Well, thanks, May-chelle.
Thanks, Seth. Thanks, friends. I hope you enjoyed May-chelle.
I did.
Okay.
Now I have to actually research these movies again. Oh, my God.
Now I have to go back to watching movies I don't want to watch. Oops.
All right. Well, until next time when we're talking about The Thin Blue Line from 1988, thank you very much for listening. Have a good one.
Movie Friends is produced by Seth Vargas and Michelle Rubenstein. Music by Anthony Vicora. If you like the show, please subscribe and give us a rating. It really helps us find new friends. Thanks.